Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. India remember its martyrs on the 3rd anniversary of 14th February Pulwama attacks. Uncertainty looms over Afghanistan 6 months after Taliban takeover. And strict Islamic laws legitimizing killings in Pakistan. From Prime Minister Narendra Modi to other leaders of the governing party and opposition leaders to common people, Indians paid their respect to the slain soldiers on the 3rd anniversary of the dastardly 14th February terrorist attack on its paramilitary forces in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district. The Fidaiin attack carried out by Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed had claimed 40 Central Reserve Police Force personnel lives. India had then launched a massive operation involving the elimination of the terrorist groups module in hours after the attack and aerial strikes on terrorist camps in Balakot, a region in Pakistan where all the terrorists are nurtured under the Pakistan establishment's direct watch. A report.
As an Indian paramilitary convoy carrying over 2,500 personnel passed through a busy road in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district, a vehicle laden with 80 kilogram explosive rammed into a bus with 40 soldiers inside. The gut-wrenching images that followed the incident can trigger both tears and rage even today. After 3 years of the incident, India lost its 40 more brave hearts to Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in a single incident. A punitive two-front strike by the Indian security forces on the ground and from the air eliminated those responsible for the attack, but the grief that set in post-attack has still not died out. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, other leaders of India's governing party, and the leaders in opposition parties took to social media to pay homage to those who made ultimate sacrifice for their country. To mark the anniversary, civilians too marched on the streets with floats condemning Pakistan's continuous support of terrorism. Since the attack, the Indian government has provided numerous evidence to the government of Pakistan, clearly indicating a presence of terrorist groups in the country. The information is also available in the public domain, but Islamabad has not buzzed even little.
Even in this particular specific case, the Jaish-e-Mohammed announced that their commander, Kamran, was the main commander, and then when we eliminated him, this was also announced by Jaish-e-Mohammed. So link is very clear. The type of evidence and the weapons and the equipment which is recovered from them, the documents, the transmissions, the intercepts, there is enough evidence and to prove that it is the Jaish-e-Mohammed which is being run from Pakistan, being funded, aided, trained, equipped by Pakistan Army and the ISI. And those terrorists are infiltrated into Kashmir Valley, and they come and do the killings or the innocent killings and all the damage and disturb the peace in Kashmir Valley.
India, with its extra assertiveness, has foiled several terrorist infiltration bids into its territory. Around 750 terrorists have been eliminated in the past 3 years alone. However, that hasn't deterred Pakistan from hatching its devious anti-India, anti-peace or anti-harmony plots. Two countries signed a military-level ceasefire agreement last year, but it couldn't meet its objectives owing to Pakistan's proxy war against India. In fact, it has stepped up its satanic game and now, despite undergoing unprecedented inflation, has multiplied its outlay for the funding of terror activities across the border. India recently underlined its concern over strengthening cooperation between the terrorist organizations in Pakistan and Afghanistan and the threat it poses to the security of the region.
The linkages between the Taliban, Al-Qaeda and terrorist entities proscribed by the Security Council, such as Lashkar-e-Taiba, and Jaish-e-Mohammed are a further source of concern, and therefore serious concern remains that Afghanistan may become a safe haven for Al-Qaeda and a number of terrorist groups in the region.
Pakistan has not just been nurturing and launching the dreaded terrorists of Jaish-e-Mohammed from POK and apparently supporting Al-Qaeda, but it has a dedicated political wing that constantly works at indoctrinating the gullible youths into joining the terrorist fold. India has so far been the biggest victim of the state-funded terrorism, and it is not far-fetched when observers fear that Afghans might see a similar turn of events in their country too. If observers are to be believed, Pakistan is set to double down its efforts at both fronts, for it will receive outside funding from a country that is desperate to build inroads in Afghanistan and is seeking a similar objective in India, for it has presented strong resistance in its global ambitions.
Let's shift our focus to Afghanistan, where life has changed in the 6 months since the Taliban swept into the Afghan capital. The Taliban's rapid-fire advance through Afghanistan has left women and girls, a whole generation of whom have grown up with rights and freedoms, among the most vulnerable. Now, they stand to lose those hard-won gains as the rights and liberties of women are being snatched away. Taliban has not fulfilled the commitments regarding the education of girls and other rights for women. Women who hoped the Taliban would bring reform in their extreme views have been disappointed by the new severe restrictions imposed on them. Take a look.
Please help. The Taliban have come to my house. My sisters are at home. These are the words of a women activist in Afghanistan on a video clip she shared just before her illegal detention by the Taliban authority. Her fear could be seen in her eyes as the Taliban armed men began to kick the door and entered Paryani's apartment when she was alone with her sisters. Paryani was under illegal detention for several days. However, after massive outrage, she has been recently released by the Taliban. The only mistake she did was she demanded her basic rights. Though the Taliban had claimed to protect and respect women and their situation this time in their governance, their interpretation of what that means has raised alarms. Their strategies remains the same as when they ruled Afghanistan in the late 90s. When the Taliban first ruled Afghanistan, women were under house arrest. Apart from schools and work, they were only allowed to leave home when accompanied by male relatives and always entirely covered. This time around, just as the Taliban seized control of the country, they attempted to steadily erase women from public life. Billboards showing women faces have been completely blacked out, and restrictions on women's work and education have been implemented. Protests demanding basic women's rights have quickly been shut down.
As far as I know, the Taliban at no stage have themselves claimed that their respect for women as is considered in the modern societies will be conferred because they are known for their rabid fundamentalist ideas where women are really hardly respected. There is no role for women from outside. And it is basically the Western countries or who have been insisting that the Taliban should, as it seems to have changed on the face of it, should provide the women a greater role. Education, as you know, the schools, the women were not allowed to, children were not, ladies, not allowed to go to college. There have been separation. So they are following strict Islamic or Sharia law, as it is called, or Islamic Emirates law.
Violence against women has been a consistent feature of life for many Afghan women and girls. Even before 15th August 2021, rates of violence against women and girls were extremely high, with studies suggesting 87% of Afghan girls and women experience abuse in their lifetime. With the Taliban takeover, access to top-coordinated, comprehensive and quality services for violence against women and girls survivors has deteriorated, while the need for those services have increased. Secretive shelters where they existed have reported receiving threats and being targeted for their work in support of women and girls. Many safe houses have been forced to close their doors after the Taliban takeover, leaving many women and girls who have experienced violence without a safe place to go seek help and refuge.
Well, as far as safe houses are concerned, if I remember correctly, there are about a dozen of them across Afghanistan since 2015 and all. And these safe houses were essentially for the women who were fleeing from the domestic violence and sexual misconduct and the violence against women, basically, despite the law having been passed during that time. And that was a refuge for them to get away from abuse. If Taliban has taken over these houses and not allowing them, that is obviously in keeping with their actual philosophy. They think that the domestic issues must be resolved at home. This is a prerogative of the men under the Islamic laws or the way they interpret it.
Not only domestic violence, many women have reported job loss after the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, due to new restrictions on women's mobility and conditions on participation in public sphere. The conditions of Afghan women and girls is dreadful. The fear has been exacerbated by the fact that the Taliban rule have not been clear about their position on women's rights. They have made broad statements that women's rights will be respected within the framework of Islam, but their actions have not inspired much confidence. The situation of women and girls in the country is bleak, yet Afghan women continue to fight for their rights and demanding equality.
Let's move to Pakistan, where the recent lynching of an old ill man in Punjab province shows that the mobs in the Muslim-majority country are confident today that they have religious and social legitimacy to be judge, jury and executioner in whatever they deem as blasphemy. The state too is unconcerned as it uses the legislation for its own motives. A report.
A viral video from Pakistan shows the corpse of an innocent person being hung on a tree by an Islamist mob. 41-year-old ill man Mustaq Ahmed was stoned to death for allegedly burning some pages of the Quran. Though this recent incident happened in Khanewal district of Punjab province, the culture of mob lynching is spreading in every corner of the country. Just a few days ago, a Sri Lankan national, Priyantha Kumara, was assaulted by a mob of hundreds of people before being dragged into the streets and set on fire in Sialkot. The rising trend is being fueled in part by state organs and authorities who corset and align with radicals bent on violence instead of upholding their duty to protect communities. The recent months and years in Pakistan have progressed with continued killings in the name of Islam, and the country is increasingly becoming a dangerous place to live in.
Mushtaq Ahmed's lynching is more of a symptom. It's a symptom of severe societal collapse setting in. As you know, the economy is collapsing. You know, the avenues and opportunities for people simply isn't increasing. They brought in CPEC, saying that, you know, CPEC will be this major infrastructural development which will aid in the industrialization of Pakistan and create jobs. Clearly, that's not happening. So, you know, everybody there is now frustrated because all their attempts at industrialization have failed. Plus, there is significant radicalization. And if you notice, you know, once the Taliban has taken over power out there, on the other side of the border in Afghanistan, plus the complete failure of law and order within Pakistan, this was just a situation waiting to happen. So it's the comeuppance that we've all been waiting for.
The hatred in Carnival has deep roots. Pakistan has endured about 33 years under 4 military dictators, all of whom co-opted religious groups to legitimize their own rule, playing along with their demands for Islamization through new laws and Sharia courts. Even civilian governments use these groups and their mass appeal for electoral gain, entrenching Islamic extremism. It is nothing but Pakistan's Prime Minister's hypocrisy when he tries to convince the world about the real message of Islam, as the same religion is being used to justify violence and murder in his own country. Those who unleashed a reign of terror under the banner of the TLP recently, those who lynched Mashal Khan, Priyantha Kumara, and many others used religion as a means to invoke the killing instinct of mobs. Not only that, culprits who have been awarded punishment for killings are now being released under controversial Islamic laws of Pakistan, laws which have been formulated by the successive governments of the country. Recently, a Pakistani man convicted of murdering his sister in an honor killing was acquitted after his parents pardoned him. Wasim Azim had confessed in 2016 to killing Kandil Baloch and was sentenced to life in prison in 2019.
So it's definitely the appeasement has been part of it. It's not been the entire part of it, because there's also been the sort of lackadaisical attitude to these organizations by the government. So it's not just appeasement, it's also been the indoctrination that has been happening, the promises of jobs not kept up, and the crumbling economy that have added to everything. Nothing is ever monocausal. It's all these things that have gone in to produce this sort of violent, rage-filled mobs that we're seeing in Pakistan, which is happening almost every week, if not every month.
Violence in the name of religion is dangerously rampant in Pakistan. The in-depth roots of religious extremism are turning the entire inhabitants of the country into religious zealots. The ruling class, whether military or civil, has exploited religion to give legitimacy and popularity to its regime, instead of curbing the menace of fundamentalism. Fundamentalism, extremism, and terrorism have grown so much that now it has become difficult for the Pakistani government to control this menace, which wants to take the society to pre-Islamic days.
In a big success for the security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, a terror module of the proscribed terror outfit Al-Badr was busted in Sopore. As many as 4 terrorists and 3 of their aides were arrested during the raid. In a statement, the police revealed that the proscribed terror outfit Al-Badr was planning to carry out attacks on security forces in Sopore at several places. We have a report.
Jammu and Kashmir has remained at the target of Pakistan's state-sponsored terrorism since decades. Be it deadly terror attacks, cross-border infiltration or narco-terrorism, Islamabad has never deferred itself from indulging into anti-Indian activities. Recently, a major terror attack was foiled in Kashmir, as Indian security forces busted a module of the Al-Badr terror outfit by arresting 4 hybrid terrorists and 3 terrorist associates in Baramulla district. Based on specific input, a cordon and special operation was launched in Rafiabad region, in which 4 terrorists were nabbed while they were in a meeting to plan attacks on civilians and security forces. The interrogation of the apprehended terrorists led to a second specific search in Handwara, leading to the arrest of 3 terror associates. During questioning, 3 terrorists revealed that they were working for the last 2 years for Al-Badr and were giving tasks to revive militancy in Rafiabad region. They were also working for the recruitment of youth in group, providing logistic supports to terrorists, procurement and arranging weapons for the new recruits.
Sopore Police, Army and CRPF, they have conducted some coordinate search operations and raids. So in this operation, the police party could able to successfully nab 7 people. So out of 7 people, 4 are uncategorized militants and 3 are OGWs.
Al-Badr terrorist outfit was proscribed by the government of India in the year 2002. Headquartered at Mansehra in Pakistan, the outfit has claimed responsibility for several terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. In 2020, it came to light that this long-defunct terror group was revived again by Pakistan to disrupt peace in the Union territory. In the past, the outfit has launched attacks targeting Indian military installations and prominent government officials. Closely linked with the Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence or ISI, Al-Badr is one of the several Pak-backed jihadi groups involving in disrupting communal harmony in Jammu and Kashmir. In the past, this terror outfit has also tried to target Jammu city, which has been peaceful for years. Last year, the sinister plot was successfully foiled by the alert Jammu and Kashmir police as the terrorists were planning an IED explosion near the crowded bus stand area in Jammu.
They want that this Jammu area, which has been peaceful even during the Khalistan movement times, should now come into turmoil, so that this entire area, people over here are, especially the ones who are not in tune with the ideology of the Wahhabism Islam, should be moved out from here, from the Jammu and Kashmir, so that this entire area becomes an Islamic caliphate. This is what Pakistan is trying, but this will not be succeeded because the people, the Indian government and the security forces are all very, very alert to all this thing, and such people who try to set up bases over here in Jammu will be nabbed and prosecuted as per law.
Pakistan has always sought with varying degrees of intensity to destabilize India, wreck its unity and challenge its integrity. This approach is unlikely to change. But Indian security forces are vigilant, alert and capable of giving a befitting reply. After the Pulwama incident, Indian security forces have taken a plethora of strategically key initiatives aimed at boosting its counter-terrorism strategy. Islamabad should now understand that any attempt to challenge India's integrity will be disastrous for it. Pakistan needs to make a hard choice now: find peace with India or blunder into an escalatory cycle. Low-cost options are over.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.